the grace and duty of being spiritually minded, declared and practically improved. To be spiritually minded is life and peace, Romans 8, verse 6. Set your affection on things above, Colossians 3, verse 2. Printed in London in 1681. Preface. I think it is necessary to give the reader a brief account of the nature and design of the ensuing plain discourse, which may both direct him into reading and be some kind of apology for myself in publishing it. He may know, therefore, that the thoughts communicated here were originally private meditations for my own use, in a season in which I was in every way unable to do anything for the edification of others, and far from any expectation that I should be so able any more in this world, receiving, as I thought, some benefit and satisfaction in the exercise of my own meditations in this, when God was graciously pleased to restore a little strength to me. I insisted on the same subject in the instruction of a private congregation, and I did this, partly out of a sense of the advantage I had received myself by being conversant in them, and partly from an apprehension that the duties directed and pressed for in the whole discourse were timely, from all sorts of present circumstances, to be declared and urged on the minds and consciences of professors. For leaving others to the choice of their own methods and designs, I acknowledge that these are the two things by which I regulate my work in the whole course of my ministry, to impart those truths of whose power I hope I have had a real experience in some measure, and to press those duties which present occasions, temptations, and other circumstances render it necessary to be attended in a particular manner. These are the things which I would principally apply myself to in the work of teaching others. For as in the work of the ministry in general, the whole counsel of God is to be declared concerning the salvation of the church by Jesus Christ, so in particular, we are not to fight uncertainly as men beating the air, nor shoot our arrows at random without a certain scope and design. Knowledge of the flock of which we are overseers, with a due consideration of their wants, their graces, their temptations, their light, their strength and weakness, are required in this, and when pursuit of that design, the preparation of the word to be dispensed proceeds from zeal for the glory of God, and compassion for the souls of men, when it is delivered with the demonstration of a due reverence of God, whose word it is, and of authority towards those to whom it is dispensed, with a deep sense of that great account which both those who preach and those who hear the word preach must shortly give before the judgment seat of Christ. There may be a comfortable expectation of a blessed issue of the whole work, but my present design is only to declare in particular the reasons why I judge the preaching and publishing of this small and plain discourse concerning the grace and duty of being spiritually minded, not to be altogether unseasonable at this time, in the present circumstances of most Christians. And the first thing I would observe to this end is the present importunity of the world to impose itself on the minds of men, and the various ways of insinuation by which it possesses and feels them. If it attain this, if it can fill the mind, thoughts, and affections of men with itself, then in some it will fortify the soul against faith and obedience, and in others it will weaken all grace and endanger them to eternal ruin. For if we love the world, the love of the Father is not in us, and when the world feels our thoughts, it will entangle our affections. And first, the present state of all public affairs in the world, with an apprehended concern by private persons in it, continually exercises the thoughts of many. It is almost the only subject of their mutual converse, for the world at present is in a mighty hurry, and in many places being thrown off all foundations of steadfastness. It makes the minds of men giddy with its revolutions, or it makes them disorderly in their expectations of them. Thoughts about these things are both allowable and unavoidable if they don't take the mind away from its own power by their multiplicity, vehemency, and urgency, until it is unframed as to spiritual things, retaining neither room nor time to entertain them. Hence, Men walk and talk as if the world were all, when comparatively it is nothing. And when men come with their heated affections, reeking with thoughts of these worldly things, as to the performance of or attendance to any spiritual duty, it is very difficult for them, if not impossible, to stir up any grace to a due and vigorous exercise, unless this plausible advantage which the world has obtained of insinuating itself and its occasions into the minds of men, so as to fill and possess them, unless this is washed against and obviated, at least so far as it may not transform the mind into its own image and likeness. This grace of being spiritually minded, which is life and peace, cannot be attained or kept to its due exercise, nor can any of us be delivered from this snare in this season without a watchful endeavor to keep and preserve our minds in the constant contemplation of things spiritual and heavenly, proceeding from the prevalent adherence of our affections to them, as will appear in the ensuing discourse. Again, there are such great and pregnant evidences of the prevalence of an earthly, worldly frame of spirit in many, who make a profession of religion, that it is high time they were called to a due consideration of how at odds they are in this to the power and spirituality of that religion which they profess. There is no way by which such a frame may be shown to prevail in many, indeed in most such professors, that it is not already manifest to all, in their habits, attires, and vestments, in their usual converse and misspent time, in their overly liberal entertainment of themselves and others to the borders of excess, and sundry other things of a like nature. There is in many such a conformity to the world, a thing severely forbidden, that it is hard to make a distinction between them, and these things manifest such a predominance of carnal affections in the minds of men, that whatever may be pretended to the contrary, it is inconsistent with spiritual peace, to call men away from this evil frame of heart and mind, to reveal the sin and danger of it, to direct them to the ways and means by which it may be effected, to supply their thoughts and affections with better objects, to reveal and press that exercise of them which is indispensably required of all believers if they want life and peace, is some part of the work of the ensuing discourse. It may be that it will be judged a weak attempt to attain that end, but it cannot be denied that it has these two advantages. First, that it is timely, and secondly, that it is sincerely intended. And this labor will not be lost if it has only this success, that it may occasion others who have more ability and opportunity than I have to bring in their assistance for opposing the vehement and importunate insinuations of the world in these things which entertain the minds of professors. But things have come to that pass among us, that unless a more than ordinary vigorous exercise of the ministry of the word, with other means appointed for the same end, are engaged in, to recall professors to that strict mortification, to that sincerity of conversation, that separation from the ways of the world, that heavenly mindedness, that delight in the contemplation of spiritual things, which the gospel and the whole nature of Christian religion require, we will lose the glory of our profession and leave it very uncertain what will be our eternal condition. The same may be said concerning love of the world, as to the advantages and emoluments which men trust to attain for themselves thereby. This is what renders men earthly minded, and most remote from having their conversation above. In the pursuit of this corrupt affection, many professors of religion grow withered, useless, sapless, giving no evidence that the love of God abides in them. On these and many other accounts, many Christians evidence that they are strangers to spiritual mindedness, to a life of meditation and holy contemplation on things above. Yet, unless we are found in these things in some good measure, no grace will thrive or flourish in us, no duty will be rightly performed by us, no condition will be sanctified or improved, nor are we prepared in a due manner, or made fit for the inheritance of the saints in light. This is why, as it was said, the design and scope of the ensuing discourse is to direct and provoke man to the only remedy for all these evils, to what alone is a means of giving them a view into and a foretaste of eternal glory, especially for those who are in my own condition, namely, in a near approach to a departure out of this world, and why it is recommended to the grace of God for the benefit of the reader.